one-loss Clemson and a one-loss Pac-12 team, Oregon, that lost to Georgia, and this TCU team, now that'd be some drama. Hack, how would you say that? That 3-horse race and only TCU's the undefeated one.
Ooh. Well, I agree with you. I think you automatically wipe Clemson off the board just because of the depth of the ACC. So it's really between TCU and Oregon. To me, I think it's how dominantly Oregon finishes the season, right? I mean, if they come out and keep doing what they've been doing, playing really efficient ball, winning by 2-3 scores, I'd probably lean towards Oregon, personally. But to the point that we said, though, that 0, I don't know. I feel like TCU is kind of like a phoenix trying to rise out of the ashes. A really good program historically, but just kind of had some bumps in the roads as of late. Gary Patterson leaves, and trying to reestablish that.
Trevor, Oregon has Cal. They go at Cal, at Colorado. Whatever. Host Washington. At Utah. Host Oregon State. That's their last 5 ball games for Oregon. And now look, you never know. Pac-12 coming down the backstretch. Washington's formidable. Utah's still a biker gang, currently ranked 15th. And Oregon State was out here throwing knuckleballs all through September. They were undefeated in the month of September. But you make a point. Their only loss was to number 1 Georgia. As soon as the season opened up, they opened the saloon doors, got knocked right out, and now they've come back and bounced back nicely. You make a point now, and I just want you just to walk through it. We have a loss, but it's to the White Walkers. These guys are undefeated. Basically, what Hack was saying is marginally the worst of the Power 5 conferences. But that guy's undefeated, but his neighborhood's nowhere near as vicious as mine. How would you weigh it out if you're the committee?
It's tough, man. It's tough. I'll say this, and this is my scapegoat. I think we have enough. We talked about Clemson, and they still have a couple of games that they could lose on their schedule. TCU surely does. They're riding the Cinderella year. And then Oregon, to me, if they keep playing with the consistency that they have been, obviously it's the Utah game. They get through Utah, and let me just correct myself here or ask a question. They're not doing a Pac-12 title game this year. Is that correct?
I have no idea. No. If they are, I think they're doing away with divisions.
Okay.
They might be done with North-South. Top two teams go.
Okay, that's what it was. So they will probably – that's 2 huge games then, all right? So that's probably at this point they play Utah, and then they're probably playing USC, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. Well, because USC and Utah – regardless, I'm about to throw you guys for a loop here. If Utah goes unscathed the rest of the year, beats Utah – if Oregon goes unscathed the rest of the year, they beat Utah, and then they either beat Utah again or they beat USC, whoever they go up against in the Pac-12 title game. Do they now have the resume to get in over whoever finishes second in the Big Ten East or the SEC East or Alabama, right? Is there enough spots to where Oregon can get in, period, over an undefeated ACC champ, an undefeated Big 12 champ, or to our scenario before, the best 4 teams, which team. All goes into conferences? And I didn't mean to say undefeated Big 12 or ACC. Those have 1 loss. Let's say TCU drops 1 and Clemson drops 1. They're still their conference
all
champs.
Teams.
Yeah. All 1-loss teams going up against each other. Does Oregon's resume get them in over a 1-loss Big Ten East or SEC team?
Their loss looks as good as anybody else's because they lost early into the presumably number 1 team most of the year. Michigan and Ohio State, the way they're going to turn around and lose to a top 4 team. and they've got some good knockouts. Alabama lost to whatever Tennessee is right now, third, fourth. You're almost comparing losses at that point. Knockouts are all relative.
Here's the thing, though. The one thing that we can throw out the window, there's going to be 2 SEC teams.
I agree.
I
agree.
And then there's going to be a Big Ten team.
What's the only way there would be one SEC team? That the SEC West team wins it with 2 losses? Like if Alabama should fall one more time, only Alabama would get the second option to go in.
So
or Georgia.
To me, what would have to happen is Tennessee would have to beat Georgia. Tennessee would then have to beat Alabama again in the SEC championship game, hand Alabama 2 losses. And then the only argument is going to be, can Georgia come in with 1 loss?
Right. So there isn't,
or Georgia gets snuck by, because I think Georgia still plays Kentucky, right? They get snuck by Kentucky and then they lose to Tennessee, and then Tennessee or whatever. And then Tennessee represents the East and Georgia somehow has 2 losses.
Guys, I think there's a scenario where one SEC team and one Big Ten team gets in, and it would piss me off so much because I don't think it's deserved. But let's say Ohio State runs through the Big Ten, undefeated Big Ten champs. Let's say Tennessee or Georgia runs through the SEC, beats Alabama on the west side, wins the SEC. Okay? 2 champs undefeated. So let's say, hypothetically here, TCU runs the table in the Big 12. They are the Big 12 Power 5 undefeated Big 12 champs. And let's also say Clemson runs through the ACC unscathed, ACC Power 5 champ. You've got the 4 top
4 undefeateds.
4 undefeateds, conference champ. Oregon wins it all, or USC, doesn't really matter out there because they all have at least 1 loss. You're now putting in TCU and Clemson, which we've already talked about, who we think is down this year, over either Georgia or Tennessee, whoever loses that game. And then Michigan, Ohio State, whoever loses that game. That would piss me off